Good day, my friends. We're at chapter 14, verse 11 of 1 Samuel. And both of them discovered themselves under the garrison of the Philistines. And the Philistines said, Behold, the Hebrews come forth out of the holes where they had hid themselves. Note, this is only two men, but as we will find out, that there is a third that is unseen among them. And please keep in mind that whenever the Philistines call these people Hebrews, it's basically said in contempt, okay? Verse 12 continuing. And the men of the garrison answered Jonathan and his armor-bearer and said, Come up to us, and we will show you a thing. And Jonathan said unto his armor-bearer, Come up after me, for the Lord has delivered them into the hand of Israel. Note, this is faith, and it always lifts men up, and hence Jonathan is actually saying, Come on up after me. Verse 13. And Jonathan climbed up upon his hands and upon his feet, and his armor-bearer after him. And they fell before Jonathan, and his armor-bearer slew after him. Note, evidently the Lord turned the attention of the Philistines elsewhere in order that they not see the ascent of Jonathan and his armor-bearer. Verse 14. And that first slaughter which Jonathan and his armor-bearer made was about 20 men, within as it were half an acre of land, which a yoke of oxen might plow. Note, God will not begin to move until faith actually begins to act. You must ever keep that in your mind. Without faith, it is impossible to please God, and quite frankly, without faith, there is actually no true victories. Verse 15. And there was trembling in the host, in the field, and among all the people. The garrison and the soldiers, they also trembled, and the earth quaked. So it was a very great trembling. Note, faith's great passion is always that God should manifest himself. A supernatural terror also seized the Philistines, for it was manifest that God and not Jonathan was the author of these particular manifestations. Okay? Verse 16. And the watchmen of Saul in Gibeah of Benjamin looked, and behold, the multitude melted away, and they went on beating down one another. Notes, the words melted away do not exactly give the proper meaning. The Philistines were not dispersing, but rather they were reeling and moving to and fro, purposeless and in confusion. This kind of carries the idea that they were terrified, and who could blame them? Verse 17. Then said Saul unto the people who were with him, Number now, and see who is gone from us. And when they had numbered, behold, Jonathan and his armor-bearer were not there. Note, at this very moment that God is giving a tremendous victory to Israel and the Philistines being defeated, the flesh in the person of Saul is trying to find out what's going on. The flesh refers to the frail ability of man, which God can never bless. Verse 18. And Saul said unto Ahiah, Bring hither the ark of God, for the ark of God was at that time with the children of Israel. Notes, in Jonathan is seen the quietness and confidence of the new man, but in Saul it's the fussiness and the excitement and the failing and the folly and impotence of an old man. Unbelief never knows what to do, but it can furnish itself with accessories of religious ceremony and a bunch of nonsense. Well, it can build an altar, as in verse 35. It can call for the ark of verse 18, and it can lean upon the priestly member of a condemned house in verse 19, but it never really knows what to do. In all the excitement, activity, and emotion, there was not a sliver of faith. And it's not going to bring good results, I can promise you that much from reading this story. Verse 19. And it came to pass, while Saul talked unto the priest, that the noise that was in the host of the Philistines went on and increased. And Saul said unto the priest, Withdraw your hand. Notes, now Saul was impatient of delay, and he couldn't wait till the will of God is made known to him, and therefore he's going to go on and do something stupid. Verse 20. And Saul and all the people who were with him assembled themselves, and they came to the battle. And behold, every man's sword was against his fellow, and there was a very great discomfiture. Notes: the Philistines were confused into actually attacking each other, and we will see that happen several times throughout the entirety of the Word of God. Verse 21. Moreover, the Hebrews who were with the Philistines before that time, which went up with them into the camp from the country round about, even they also turned to be with the Israelites who were with Saul and Jonathan. Notes: now in this great revival, one might say the children of God who had lost their way almost completely, going out into the world, now come back to the Lord as a result of Jonathan's faith. It's kind of infectious in a weird way. Verse 22. Likewise, all the men of Israel which had hid themselves in Mount Ephraim, when they heard that the Philistines fled, even they also followed hard after them in the battle. Notes: a move of God evidenced by faith, which results in victory, brings out even the cowardly and the timid. But that's what faith is actually supposed to do. It'll change your spaghetti spine into a rod of steel. Verse 23. So the Lord saved Israel that day, and the battle passed over unto Beth Haven. Notes: if the Lord can get someone to believe Him, He can do great things, and to be sure, God, who is Almighty, doesn't need the help of anyone. However, He has purposely allowed believers to have a part in His great work, and that great part is to simply have faith. Romans chapter 10, verse 17. Go ahead and read it if you got the time. Verse 24. And the men of Israel were distressed that day, for Saul had adjured the people, saying, Cursed be the man who eats any food until evening, that I may be avenged on my enemies. So none of the people tasted any food. Notes. You see, now the flesh continues to hinder the Spirit of God. The flesh is always trying to do something, so Saul will forbid the people to eat any food. Carnal zeal hinders or limits victory, and when man intrudes himself into the work of God, bringing in his own strength and abilities into it, he has a tendency of causing bad things to happen. His foolish command to put to death those who failed to obey his laws only made more visible the disobedience of his own heart to obey God's laws. You see, men love to make laws, and religious men most of all, and they love to force people to obey them, which has ever been the cause of so much heartache and even bloodshed down throughout the ages. The Pharisees in the book of Matthew have a great example of this, where they had changed the Levitical law to such a degree that they were actually teaching that if you didn't wash your hands, demons would get on your food and jump in your mouth whenever you swallowed it. And Jesus tore into them like a hobo on a bologna sandwich, but we'll get to that much later. Verse 25. And all they of the land came to a wood, and there was honey upon the ground. Notes, this is symbolic of the path of faith, and there is honey. And in the path of unbelief there is hunger and starvation, which of course is caused by Saul, or people like him. God furnishes ample refreshment upon the heavenly way, so that there was a stream of honey upon the very battlefield. But that which is an invitation of faith made it a duty under sentence of death to partake of it. The corrupt Christian church is a sad illustration today of the same intrusion of man's will into God's kingdom. Verse 26. And when the people were come into the wood, behold, the honey dropped, but no man put his hand to his mouth, for the people feared the oath. Notes. They're afraid of what Saul has just said. Man-made laws have a nasty tendency to keep God's people from accepting and thereby benefiting from that which God has provided. What a sad illustration of the people of that time, and what a sad illustration of the people right now. And we'll have to pick up in chapter 14, verse 27 of the book of 1 Samuel. Thank you, and God bless.